Let's get into it. The return to the PGA Tour, at least for the sake of these chats with Jason Sobel, Action Network. I'm Adam Kaufman, and let's talk about the RSM Classic in Georgia, Jason. Scottie Scheffler, back-to-back top 5 finishes, including, of course, last week. He is the favorite on the DraftKings Sportsbook to win this thing at plus 1,000. Is this the week he finally winds up on top?
Maybe not. Look, I like Scottie Scheffler. We all like Scottie Scheffler. The guy is a top 20 player in the world already, a top 10 player in the making, maybe a top 5 player very, very soon. He's got all the tools. He was what we would call a 5-tool player if he was playing baseball instead. That said, 10-1 to win for the first time as the favorite. Boy, I'm going to hold off on that one. I think Scottie Scheffler can beat a bigger field at a bigger number. So I'm going to hold off until a week when, it'll be next year when we get him at a bigger price, because I just don't want to dip to 10-1. But yes, can he win? To answer your question, of course he can. He's really good.
We know who else can win, whether he will or not, we'll see, and that is Robert Streb, a guy we do not talk often about, obviously, but he is the defending champ. He has won at Sea Island a couple of times at this point. He's plus 7,000 to win this thing again. Now, I don't know how easy it'll be for him, obviously, to go out there and repeat. Maybe you would feel a little bit more comfortable looking at, let's say, a top 10 finish. That is plus 550 on the DK Sportsbook. How do you look at him and his odds?
Streber is one of the nicest guys on the PGA Tour, a guy that anyone who meets him would root for him every single time they watch him play. So certainly I'd love to see him go for a third career victory at Sea Island this week. But, oh, boy, I don't know that I'm betting him outright. He did have a nice weekend in Houston, though, on a golf course that doesn't suit him nearly as much as both the Plantation and the Seaside tracks at Sea Island. So I will take Streb for a top 20 this week, a little bit of a cautious play. Really hard to win this thing for a second time, which he's done already, let alone a third time.
It's not just your guy Streber right here. You get the past 6 winners at this event, all part of the field right here. Just to outline this group, you got Kevin Kisner, Mackenzie Hughes is there as well, Charles Howell III, Tyler Duncan, Austin Cook, all obviously with varying odds. Is there one guy in particular from this group that you're backing this week?
Well, first of all, congratulations to those who may have seen something a little interesting on DraftKings when the book first came out with the odds on Monday morning. Kevin Kisner was listed at 50-1. I was writing my preview at the time for Action Network, and I'm sitting there looking at it saying, ooh, 50-1 on Kisner. People are going to jump on that. Well, apparently they did. About 45 minutes later, I looked again, and he was down to 35-1. So if you got on Kisner that early, first of all, you weren't alone, and secondly, good luck with that ticket. A name you didn't mention, maybe it just didn't go back far enough, but the 2014 champion, Chris Kirk, who's right around 45-1 this week. I like him a lot. I've been waiting for Chris Kirk to pop near the top of a leaderboard all year, finished runner-up at the Sony Open back in January, and I thought a major burden was lifted from his shoulders back then, considering he had retained PGA Tour playing privileges with that finish. So I still think with one start left at a place where he plays really well and he's got a comfort level, again, 1 in 14, and he's got a couple of other top 10 finishes, I think this is a good place for Chris Kirk, which may or may have not answered your question, but that's what I'm going with.
Well, you can make the case that at least the back half of those guys are kind of long shots for this event, Duncan Cook in particular, obviously. So even beyond that, beyond the past winners, are there any real long shots or sort of that mid-range kind of guy on the DK Sportsbook that stands out to you as a real threat to win this thing?
Sure. Well, first of all, I'll start it with Denny McCarthy, who finished tied for 11th place at Houston last week. Comes to a couple of golf courses that should suit his game much, much better. His strokes gained around the green on Sunday in Houston was more than 3 in comparison with the field, and his putting was nearly 3 strokes gained against the field. That's really, really good. If he just hits the ball mediocre this week, he's got a chance to contend if he can keep up that type of chipping and putting. I like him a lot. And then there's a bunch of Southeastern guys. Think about all the guys who you could see maybe sitting in the front row of an SEC football game, collars popped, maybe sneaking a cold beverage in there. Brian Harmon is a guy who's played well here in the past, hasn't played his best golf recently, but I could see him doing it. He's a UGA guy, another UGA guy. There's so many of them in the field this week. Keith Mitchell who's a guy that I really liked last week, had it going into the weekend, kind of lost it a little bit on the weekend, finished outside the top 40, but I could see him. And again, both those guys have much bigger numbers, a lot of value on them, probably more so than they should.
I haven't left my house much in the last couple of years. Has the pop collar made a comeback?
I believe so. It's on your TV.
That's fair. I'll take a look around.
Yeah, you have a TV there, right?
I do. Usually I'm just watching highlight reels of golf so that we can talk about that, though. All right, let's go the other way from that previous question. How about someone with shorter odds, but you're going to fade them this week?
Well, I'm going with another UGA guy. So you can't just jump on the whole UGA bandwagon, but Harris English is a guy who's played really well. Look, career resurgence over the past year. 2 victories on the PGA Tour, made the Ryder Cup team. I mean, he played so well that he's not only top 15 in the world right now, but he was a guest picker on College Game Day. A year ago, that never would have happened, but Harris English has exploded on the golf scene over the last 12 months. That said, he has not played his best golf as of late. He does not have a terrific record. In fact, last year was his first top 10 at this event, despite playing nearly every single year. So Harris English is a guy that, okay, the number's pretty good. For number 12 in the world, he's 25-1 this week, but he is indeed a fade for me.
I'm going to talk to the producers, find out if we can start to have you on to analyze some college football Saturdays as well. You know, not just the golf. Stick in the SEC. All right, last thing for you. We always wrap up here. We need a winner, in this case, for the RSM Classic.
All right, so I picked a winner. And then I went back after I wrote him up and after I talked about him and after I did some TV stuff talking about it. Brandon Grace plays really well on shorter coastal golf courses. Harbor Town is a nice little correlation to Sea Island, and he won there 5 years ago, won in Puerto Rico earlier this year. Since then, he's had 4 finishes of 7th or better. Went to that big playoff at the Wyndham just a couple of months ago. So this should be right up his alley. Played here for the first time last year, but only finished 30th, but shot 64 in the final round. So I believe that good things are coming. And then after I wrote about him, after I talked about him, I saw he's dealing with chronositis. I'm definitely not saying that right, but it's some sort of inflammation in the of the cartilage in the rib and breastbone area. I just know that from my medical background. I didn't look it up at all or anything like that. So a word of caution. So I've already picked him. I'm not going to go back on my pick. He's my favorite outright. He's 80-1. That's a big number. I love everything about him this week except the chronositis thing that he's dealing with. So, apparently, according to Google, I don't think WebMD has him dying yet from it, but what they say is it could linger for a long time or it could go away very quickly. So I'm hoping for the latter of those two choices.